guys, my name is Muskan and I am here to discuss one important but interesting provision of Indian Contract Act 1872. Alright. So I guess we have a very clear idea कि what contract is. अपन सबको मालूम है कि contract क्या होता है. लेकिन एक important question जो अपने सामने आता है that is क्या कोई भी random बंदा आके contract sign कर सकता है? क्या कोई भी XYZ person आके contract sign कर सकता है? And क्या वो contract valid माना जाएगा? Alright. So, well, the answer to this is a very clear no. No, not everybody can enter into a contract. Indian Contract Act 1872 has a very clear stand on it. Okay. So, in next few minutes, we'll be discussing who actually can enter into a contract, who is competent enough to enter into a contract. All right. So, Section 11 of Indian Contract Act 1872 clearly specifies who is competent enough to enter into a contract and who is not considered as a competent party to enter into a contract. And when these people enter into a contract, the contract is absolutely considered as not valid. Okay. So section 11 provides you three conditions, तीन basic condition. ये तीन basic condition अपने को समझ में आ जाएगी तो we will be very clear on the stand कि who can enter into a contract and who cannot enter into a contract. Okay. So beginning with provision number 1, it says any person who is a minor, if a person is a minor and he is entering into a contract, that contract is not considered as valid. ठीक है, ये तो legal बातें हो गई. सबसे पहले अपन समझते हैं कि माइनर का मतलब क्या है. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय माइनर? सो एनी पर्सन हु इज बिलो 18 इयर्स ऑफ एज, एनी पर्सन हु इज बिलो 18 इयर्स ऑफ एज, 15, 16, 14, 13 साल का अगर कोई बच्चा है एंड वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन करता है, that contract will not be considered as valid. Indian Contract Act has a very clear stand that if a minor is entering into a contract, minor is never considered as competent to enter into a contract and that contract will not be considered as valid. Okay, there is also a very celebrated case. I'll not go into the facts of the case because we don't have a lot of time, but I'll definitely mention the case. So it's Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. Okay, in Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh, it is actually a very purana case, बहुत ही पुराना केस है. In this case, Privy Council clearly specified that if a minor is entering into a contract, अगर minor के साथ कोई contract sign होता है, that contract is absolutely void ab initio. Void ab initio मतलब void from the beginning. ठीक है? So minor is not considered as competent to enter into a contract. Any person who is below 18 years of age cannot enter into a contract. That contract will not be considered as valid. Condition number 1. Point number 2. If a person is of unsound mind, he is not considered as a person who is competent enough to enter into a contract and the contract will not be considered as valid. ठीक है? Again, what do we mean by unsound mind? Unsound mind मतलब any person who is not in a good mental state, जिसको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि वो exactly क्या कर रहा है. ठीक है? So if a person is not in a good mental state and he is signing a contract, that contract will not be considered as valid because according to section 11 of Indian Contract Act, that person, a person who is of unsound mind is not considered as competent to enter into a contract. ठीक है? लेकिन कुछ situations have been found जहां पे कुछ केसेस में the person has a good mental state but at times he is not in a good mental state. ठीक है? इस केस में if a person is in a good mental state and he is signing a contract, ठीक है? Understand this thing very properly. If a person is in a good mental state and he is signing a contract, then that contract will be considered as valid. But when he is in a bad mental state and he is signing a contract, that contract will not be considered as valid. ठीक है? So if a person is of unsound mind, he is not considered as competent to enter into a contract. And the last सबसे easy provision आती है, if a person has been disqualified under any other law, किसी भी law के अंदर if a person has been disqualified to enter into a contract, that person will not be considered as competent. Alright? So क्विकली समराइज करते हैं. तीन चीजें अपने को याद रखनी है. हु इज कॉम्पिटेंट इनफ टू एंटर इनटू अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट? एनी पर्सन हु इज नॉट अ माइनर, जो 18 इयर्स से बिलो नहीं हो, हु इज नॉट ऑफ अनसाउंड माइंड, जो प्रॉपर मेंटल कंडीशन में हो, एंड हु इज नॉट बीन डिस्क्वालिफाइड अंडर एनी अदर लॉ. ठीक है? तो अब अपन से कोई भी पूछता है क्या मैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में एंटर कर सकता हूँ, सिंपल सी चीज चेक करनी है. डायरेक्टली स्विच टू सेक्शन नंबर 11. ठीक है? तीन चीजें चेक करनी है. माइनर तो नहीं है, अनसाउंड माइंड का तो नहीं, इज इन अ गुड मेंटल स्टेट एंड ही हैज नॉट बीन डिस्क्वालिफाइड. अगर ये तीनों कंडीशन फुलफिल होती है देन यस ही कैन एंटर इनटू अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. He is competent to enter into a contract. ठीक है? All right. So I hope this helps you out. Thank you so much.
Hi guys. So since you have already discussed what are the ingredients of valid contract and what constitutes the capacity of entering into the contract, there is one phrase that you must have come across a lot of times and which is of free consent. In this video, we are going to discuss what free consent is, especially in the lights of the Indian Contracts Act. But before venturing into the Contracts Act, I would like to briefly discuss what actually free consent is and why is it important when it comes to contracts. Free consent basically means that the agreement or that the consent that you give to enter into the contract is free of any fraud, any influence, any malice. It basically tries to ensure that the person who's entering into the contract agrees to do so with the complete intention, complete will, and the complete knowledge of the repercussions of entering into the contract. Section 14 of the Indian Contracts Act deals with what free consent is. It does not really define what free consent is, so much so that it explains what are the scenarios which are not a part of free consent or which will render your consent as not free. There are 5 scenarios listed under section 14 which make consent given by a person to enter into the contract not free. These 5 scenarios are coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, and mistake. We'll discuss all these 5 scenarios very briefly with an example each so that it's easy for you to understand. We'll start with coercion, which is dealt with under section 15 of the Act. Coercion basically can be explained with this example. Let's say you are sitting somewhere, a person comes there, puts you at gunpoint, and asks you to sign a contract. The contract says that you are transferring all your property to that person. You do so under the fear of being shot at. This is a classic example of coercion. Coercion basically happens when one person threatens the other person of doing something which is prohibited under the Indian Penal Code, and the person does so out of fear of the threat. In the above example, the shooter threatened to shoot at you, which is prohibited under the Indian Penal Code, and out of fear of being shot at, you entered into the contract. This is a classic example of coercion, and because there was an element of coercion in your consent, the contract will be voidable at your option. The second scenario is that of undue influence, which is dealt with under section 16 of the Act. Undue influence happens when a person who is in a position to influence the decision of a person uses that position to unduly influence that decision. An example would be, let's say you go to your teacher and ask the teacher to give you good grades in your exam. The teacher says that yes, I am ready to give you good grades, but you will have to pay me 50,000 for it. You agree to do so, and both of you enter into a contract. This contract, which would otherwise have been valid in India, is now voidable because there is an element of undue influence present. Here, the teacher, who was in a position to influence the mind of the student, has used that position to unduly influence the student to enter into the contract and to agree to pay 50,000 to the teacher. This is a case of undue influence, and the contract will be left voidable at the option of the student. Undue influence also happens when there is a contract which is unconscionable to a normal mind, and in such scenarios, the person is deemed to have imposed undue influence, and it is the responsibility of that person to prove that no undue influence was exerted. Section 17 talks about fraud. Fraud happens when a person intentionally and knowingly conceals a fact in order to induce another person to enter into a contract. For example, let's say you go to buy a horse and you tell the seller, listen, I want this horse to do horse riding in my field. The seller says that yes, the horse is very healthy and sells you the horse. On the other hand, the seller completely knows that the horse is lame and cannot be used for horse riding. When you get the delivery of the horse, you come to know of the fact that the horse is lame. This is a case of fraud. Here, the seller knew that the horse was lame, and the seller knew that he was lying to you when he said that the horse was healthy. It was this lie of the seller that induced you to enter into the contract, and you would not have entered into the contract had the seller told you that the horse was lame. This shows that the seller defrauded you, and hence, since there was an element of fraud in this contract, the contract will be voidable at your option. Section 18 deals with the next scenario, which is called misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is very similar to fraud, but there is just one thin line of difference, which is the factor of innocence. In fraud, the seller intentionally told you that the horse was lame. But in misrepresentation, the seller will tell you the horse was lame very innocently. So misrepresentation happens when the person making the statement does not really know the truth and makes the statement innocently. It turns out later that the statement made by the person is actually false. So in the above example, if the seller does not know that the horse was lame and still goes on to say that the horse was healthy and later finds out that the horse was lame, this will not be fraud, it will be misrepresentation, because here the seller was not aware of the fact that the horse was lame and hence there was no element of intention. It was just the knowledge that the seller did not have and hence it will amount to misrepresentation. This also renders the contract voidable at the option of the buyer or at the option of the person to whom the misrepresentation has been made. The last one is that of mistake of fact. The last scenario which renders the consent as not free is mistake of fact. This is dealt with under section 20. Section 20 says basically that if two parties enter into a contract and if even one of those parties is not aware of a fact or is aware of a fact which is actually untrue, then that would render the consent not free. This basically happens because the principle of consensus ad idem is not followed if you do not know the fact correctly. And hence, in this scenario, the contract is rendered void. Let's say, for example, you enter into a contract with Mr. X to get a cargo named Zeal. It turns out that there was no cargo named Zeal. In fact, there was a cargo named Seal. Since both of you were under an impression that the cargo was named Zeal, Zeal, and hence, and since it was a mistake of fact, the agreement entered into by the two of you will be rendered void. So this was the last scenario wherein the consent is deemed to have been not free. I hope these 5 situations made you understand what free consent is and the concept has been a little more clear to you than it was earlier. Thank you for watching.